It is precisely 2 hours and 14 minutes past midnight, and the silence in your room has a physical weight to it, pressing against your chest like a lead blanket. The only thing alive in this darkness is the cold, sterile blue light of your smartphone reflecting off your retinas, a digital window into a world where everyone else seems to be winning while you are slowly rotting in place. You can hear the faint, rhythmic humming of the refrigerator in the kitchen, a reminder that the world continues to function while you are suspended in time. Beneath the surface of this mindless scrolling, you feel a sickening vibration in your solar plexus, a mixture of intense caffeine anxiety and the crushing familiar guilt of another day that has been allowed to slip through your fingers like sand. In your mind, you are a titan. You have notebooks filled with sketches for businesses that could disrupt entire industries. You have creative visions that could move thousands of souls, and you have a latent potential that you carry like a hidden, heavy weapon that you never quite learned how to fire. But as you lie there, paralyzed, unable to even reach out and put the phone on the nightstand, the gap between your mental divinity and your physical reality feels like an infinite, dark canyon. You are currently trapped in the most dangerous psychological state a human being can inhabit. You are not just lazy. You are not just unmotivated or lacking in willpower. You are a biological prisoner of your own potential. Your high intelligence and your grand, sweeping ambitions have conspired against you to create a state of functional paralysis that is as real as a physical cage. You have been waiting for a sign, for a sudden burst of motivation, or for the perfect, mythical moment to finally begin your life. But while you wait, your existence is leaking out of you like water from a cracked vase. Your brain, the most sophisticated and evolved machine in the known universe, is actively and aggressively sabotaging your future to protect your ego in the immediate present. We are going to perform a deep, clinical autopsy on this paralysis. We are going to cut through the thick layers of your self-deception and look at the raw, bloody mechanics of why you are failing despite being the smartest person in the room. Why is the organ that was designed for survival and evolution now dedicated to your destruction? The answer is not in your character, but in a primitive mechanism that was designed to save your life millions of years ago. By the time we are done, you will either find the strength to move, or you will finally understand the exact shape of the prison you have built for yourself. Every night, you experience what we call the syndrome of tomorrow. When the world is asleep and the pressure of the day has faded, your brain feels safe enough to play with the idea of success. You feel a surge of energy, a rush of clarity where everything seems possible. You write lists, you research tools, and you promise yourself that tomorrow at 8 in the morning, everything changes. You go to sleep feeling like a conqueror. But when the sun rises and the reality of the work is staring you in the face, that version of you disappears. The conqueror is replaced by a frightened child. You look at the task and you feel a physical repulsion, a heavy fog that descends on your mind, making even the simplest email feel like climbing a mountain. This leads into the cycle of internal bullying, a toxic internal monologue where you call yourself a failure, a coward, and a fraud. You think that by shaming yourself, you will force yourself to work. But science tells us the opposite. This self-inflicted shame actually triggers a release of dopamine in a perverse way, providing a secondary gain where the drama of your self-hatred becomes a substitute for the effort of action. You are addicted to the tragedy of your own stagnation. And for many of you, this is rooted in the label of the gifted child. You were told you were special, that things came easy to you, and that you had a bright future ahead. This praise was a slow-acting poison. It taught your subconscious that your value is tied to your natural ability, not your effort. If you try your hardest and you fail, then you are no longer the smart one. You are just another person who wasn't good enough. To your ego, this is an unacceptable outcome, a social death. So, you choose laziness as a protective cloak. As long as you don't try, you can always maintain the fantasy that you could have been great if you had only wanted to. You would rather be a brilliant failure who didn't try than a mediocre worker who gave it their all. This is the heart-stop truth of your paralysis. You are holding your own life hostage because you are too afraid to find out that you might just be ordinary. You are using your laziness to protect the illusion of your greatness, while your actual life rots away in the shadows of what could have been. The pain you feel is not a lack of willpower, it is the friction of your soul rubbing against the bars of a cage you built out of your own vanity and fear. You think your intelligence is your greatest asset, but in this context, it is your greatest enemy. It allows you to visualize every possible failure, every potential embarrassment, and every obstacle before you even take a single step. You are overthinking because it feels safer than doing. You are analyzing the mountain because it gives you an excuse not to climb it. But while you analyze, the weather is changing and the opportunity is fading. This internal sabotage is a sophisticated system that has one goal: to keep you safe in the mediocrity you hate. Because to the brain, the known misery is safer than the unknown success. To understand why you cannot move, we must look deeper than your thoughts and into your nervous system, specifically the Polyvagal Theory proposed by Stephen Porges. Your body has three primary states of being. The first is the green zone, the social engagement system where you feel safe, creative, and connected. This is where you think you live when you are planning your future. The second is the yellow zone, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. This is where you feel the urge to hustle, to compete, and to drive yourself forward. But there is a third, much older state, the red zone of the dorsal vagal complex. This is the freeze response. When a mammal is faced with a threat that it cannot fight and cannot escape, the system chooses to shut down entirely to preserve life. This is what we call functional freeze. The great irony is that your brain has begun to perceive your own massive ambitions as a predator. When you think about that million-dollar business or that perfect career, you aren't just seeing a goal, you are seeing a massive, life-altering change that carries the risk of total social rejection and failure. To your primitive brain, a goal that big is equivalent to a tiger in the room. It is too big to fight and too important to run away from. So, your nervous system does the only thing it knows how to do in the face of certain death. It pulls the emergency brake. This is the neural gridlock. Imagine a high-performance supercar representing your prefrontal cortex and your grand desires. The engine is redlining, the turbochargers are screaming, and the fuel is burning at a massive rate. But the wheels are locked by a rusted, heavy chain representing your limbic system, the seat of your fear. You are burning thousands of calories of mental energy just to stay perfectly still on the couch. This is why a day of doing nothing feels more exhausting than a day of hard labor. You are fighting a biological civil war inside your skull, where your safety mechanisms are winning against your evolution. The more you care about the outcome, the more the amygdala hijacks the prefrontal cortex, cutting off the blood flow to the parts of your brain that handle logic and action. You are literally being lobotomized by your own survival instincts. This is why you feel that physical tightness in your throat or the hollow sensation in your stomach when you try to sit down at your desk. Your body is telling you that you are in mortal danger. It is screaming at you to go back to the distractions, to go back to the games, to go back to the mindless scrolling because there, you are safe. There, the tiger cannot find you. This is the ambition paralysis loop. Your ambition creates the fear creates the freeze, and the freeze creates the shame that feeds the ambition to try even harder next time, starting the whole cycle over again. You are not broken. You are simply stuck in a survival loop that was designed for a world that no longer exists. You are trying to navigate a digital landscape with a prehistoric map, and the friction is tearing you apart. Now let us look at the chemical evidence of your treason. There is a phenomenon known as the dopamine prediction error. Most people believe that dopamine is the chemical of reward, but it is actually the chemical of anticipation and desire. When you spend hours fantasizing about your future success, looking at images of luxury, or watching videos of other people achieving your dreams, your brain releases a massive amount of dopamine. For your subconscious, the reward has already been delivered. The brain does not easily distinguish between a vividly imagined victory and a real one. By the time you actually have to sit down and do the work, your dopamine baseline has crashed. You are biologically satisfied without having accomplished anything. You have consumed the dessert before the meal, and now you have no appetite for the hard work that reality requires. This is why the most ambitious people are often the most paralyzed. They have used up all their chemical fuel on the fantasy. Furthermore, we must consider the Zeigarnik effect. This is the psychological principle that the brain remembers uncompleted tasks better than completed ones. However, in your state of paralysis, you have hundreds of uncompleted tasks floating in your mental space. This creates what we call mental data clutter. Your cognitive processing power is being drained by the sheer number of open loops in your mind. Every unfinished book, every half-started project, and every unfulfilled promise to yourself is a background application running in your brain's CPU, slowing everything down until you experience a total system crash. This is the fatigue you feel. It is not a lack of physical energy. It is the weight of your own ghosts. Dr. Andrew Huberman often discusses how dopamine is the molecule of more. When you use it to chase fantasies, you are training your brain to seek the feeling of achievement rather than the achievement itself. You are essentially a dopamine addict, and your dealer is your own imagination. You are getting high on the version of you that doesn't exist yet, while the version of you that does exist is suffering from extreme neglect. This is the biological sabotage that keeps you in a state of perpetual potential. You are a star that is perpetually collapsing under its own gravity, never quite becoming a sun, and never quite disappearing into the void. You are suspended in a chemical purgatory of your own making. We must also acknowledge the external predators who benefit from your paralysis. You live in a culture that worships the hustle. You are bombarded with productivity porn, with sleek videos of people waking up at 4 in the morning to drink green juice and work out for 3 hours before starting their billion-dollar day. These videos are not designed to help you. They are designed to exploit your insecurities. They target your emotional fatal points, specifically your desire for significance and your fear of being left behind. When you watch these videos from the comfort of your bed, they trigger a massive release of cortisol, the stress hormone. You feel inadequate, small, and desperate. This state of emotional distress makes you even more likely to stay paralyzed because, as we have already discussed, your brain sees this stress as a sign of danger and keeps you in the freeze response. The very thing you are using to motivate yourself is the thing that is locking your chains. This is a sophisticated form of social manipulation. The algorithms of social media are designed to keep you in a state of lazy but guilty. If you were truly relaxed, you wouldn't need their content. If you were truly productive, you wouldn't have time for their content. The sweet spot for profit is the person who feels like they should be doing more, but can't find the strength to start. You are the perfect consumer for the self-help industry. They sell you the tools to fix a problem that their very existence helps to create. They feed your vanity by telling you that you are a sleeping giant, while they feed your fear by showing you how far behind you are. You are being farmed for your attention, and your unfulfilled ambition is the most valuable crop they have. They have turned your search for meaning into a treadmill of passive consumption where you feel like you are moving but you never leave the same spot. You are participating in a global experiment in mass distraction, and the price of entry is your own life. This is the cold, surgical reality of the world you live in. It does not want you to succeed. It wants you to stay right where you are, dreaming just enough to keep buying the dream, but never waking up enough to actually live it. To break this cycle, we must move beyond the realm of thought and into the realm of biological intervention. If you want to escape the freeze, you cannot use logic. You must use the body to speak to the brain. The first step is the somatic intervention of shaking. When animals in the wild survive a predator attack, they shake their entire bodies to discharge the excess survival energy. You have been holding that energy for years. You must physically shake your limbs, your torso, and your head for several minutes to signal to your nervous system that the threat has passed. You are manually resetting your vagus nerve. The second intervention is what we call lowering the stakes. Your paralysis is born from the fear of greatness. To kill that fear, you must intentionally seek out mediocrity. You must give yourself the clinical permission to be a total disaster. Tell yourself that you are going to work for only 5 minutes, and in those 5 minutes, you are going to produce the worst work humanly possible. If you are writing, write nonsense. If you are designing, make it ugly. By aiming for failure, you remove the predator from the room. There is no threat if there is no expectation. Once the brain realizes that the world hasn't ended because you did a bad job, the freeze response will begin to lift. The third step is a radical dopamine fast from the future. You must stop the mental masturbation of imagining your success. When you feel that surge of excitement about your future, you must cut it off. Do not imagine the stage, the money, or the applause. Instead, visualize the friction. Visualize the technical bugs, the boring spreadsheets, and the moments when you will want to quit. You must prepare your nervous system for the reality of the struggle so that it isn't surprised when it arrives. Silence is your primary tool. You must stop telling people what you are going to do. The social validation you receive when you announce your goals provides a counterfeit sense of achievement that kills your drive to execute them. Work in total darkness. Let your silence be a shield, and your results be the only noise you make. You must treat your work not as a grand mission, but as a series of small, meaningless clinical tasks. You are not building an empire. You are just moving one piece of data from one place to another. You are not changing the world. You are just typing letters on a screen. By making the work small and insignificant, you make it safe enough for your brain to allow you to do it. The procedure is complete. The data is laid out before you in its raw and uncomfortable glory. You are not a broken machine. You are not a lazy person. You are a human being whose safety system is working too well. You are a high-performance engine that has been locked in a garage because the owner was too afraid of a scratch. But a car in a garage eventually rots, and a man in a state of potential eventually becomes a monument to regret. I want you to look at the dreams you haven't started. If you were to strip them all away, if you were to accept that you might never be famous, never be rich, and never be extraordinary, who are you in the silence of this moment? The tragedy of your life is not that you haven't succeeded yet. The tragedy is that you have been so obsessed with being great that you have forgotten how to be alive. The fear of being ordinary is the very thing that is making your life less than ordinary. You have been waiting for the fear to go away, but I am telling you that it never will. The fear is the price of admission for a life that matters. You must learn to walk while your knees are shaking. You must learn to create while your heart is pounding with the fear of being found out. The laboratory is closing its doors. The blue light of your screen is still there, but hopefully, something inside you has shifted. You no longer have the excuse of ignorance. You know the mechanics of your own prison. You know the face of your saboteur. The question that remains is simple. Will you stay in the safety of the dark, or will you take the risk of being a mediocre, struggling, and finally, a real human being? The choice is not between success and failure. It is between being a ghost of your potential or a participant in your reality. The experiment is over. The data is clear. The procedure is complete. Don't try to be great tomorrow. Just try to be awake today. Go into the silence. Go into the work. Go home to the version of you that is waiting to be born in the mud of effort, not the clouds of fantasy.